Hello and welcome back to World of Tanks. Today we're going to be talking about the new assembly shop tank, the Object 452K. I'm going to cover what is the assembly shop, what is the Object 452K. I want to give you some statistics and tell you what this tank can do when it's fully tricked out, and then I'm going to give you my opinion on whether you should pick this tank up. Let's get right into it. So, what is the assembly shop? That's a question I know a few of you may be asking. Well, essentially, the assembly shop is a relatively new kind of mechanic to the game where you use in-game resources such as free XP, gold, credits, your blueprints, and bonds to unlock an exclusive tier 10 tank. So it kind of is as it sounds. You assembled the tank using your in-game resources. So, it ain't cheap. That's essentially the kind of bit that I'm sure some of you have kind of just latched on there. You have basically a bar to fill up, so 0 to 100%, and to fill it all the way up to 100%, for example, with just free experience, it would be 1 million free XP. And to fill it all the way up with credits, it would be something ridiculous like, I think, 125 million credits. So you can kind of get the idea of how not cheap participating in an assembly shop is, but I know what's going to help you decide is finding out what the 452K is. Well, the Object 452K is a new tier 10 Russian heavy tank. It might look a little bit familiar to some of you if any of you have played the game recently and will have seen the previous assembly shop tank, the Object 780. It's quite low profile, it's got a very big lower plate, kind of very strong turret. It looks kind of similar, as you can see through flicking through these photos. It's very low profile. It's got a very kind of similar look. But is it worth it in terms of the statistics? So, you have a 560 alpha gun. That's pretty alright. You know, I think it's the same as the 780. Actually, it is the same as the 780. You've got decent penetration with standard 260. That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice for tier 10. 260 standard is pretty alright. 320 gold, it's okay. Meh, you're a decent slab of hit points. You're not horrendously slow. You know, you're not going to be speeding around the battlefield like an IS-7 or a 277, but you're definitely not going to be, lagging behind like a mouse. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's got decent gun handling. It's a bit meh. It's pretty much, if you've played the BZ75, from looking at its distilling statistics, it looks like the gun handling is going to be similar to the BZ75. A little bit derpy, but if it hits, it's nice. You have a decent aim time. 2.5 second aim time is pretty nice, but the dispersion is pretty poor at 0.38. There is a big limiting factor, though, of this tank, is its carry potential. If any of you have played tanks like the IS-4, you will know that it's limited to its carry potential by the amount of showers it carries. This only carries 30 showers, so you are going to be limited in the amount of damage that you can do in a game because you do only have 30 showers. So you are going to have to play this tank quite economically in a way. You're going to have to definitely be making sure that you're not, blind firing too much. It's something you can't do. But 30 is not horrendous, but it is pretty poor. So that is definitely going to be a limiting factor of this tank's ability to carry and just be a lord of the battlefield, essentially. Gun depression is pretty decent. 7 degrees of gun depression. That's pretty nice for a Russian tank, not gonna lie. Especially a heavy tank as well. So, statistics-wise, it's looking pretty okay. It's definitely not looking weak, let's put it that way. But in terms of statistics, when fully equipped, so we're talking using Bond Turbo, Bond Rammer, and Bond Hardening, which is the equipment I'd recommend you use on this tank, you can get this thing's DPM up to 3025, which is very nice. That is just kind of less than a Super Conqueror. It's good, trust me. That is good DPM. And its speed becomes a little bit more manageable, especially if you put a Bond Turbo in it, which I would recommend if, you're going to dump in a lot of resources to pick this tank up. You're probably going to want to put Bond equipment on it. If you do have it available, you can get this thing's top speed up to 41. It's pretty nice. Definitely not slow. So, let's have a little bit of a look on tanks.gg at this tank's armor model, because it kind of is the specialty of this tank. As you can see, we're on tanks.gg. We've got the Object 452K pulled up for its armor model. And yeah, as you may see, let's just put it into its gun depression position here. So using 7 degrees of gun depression, yeah, that's what does that remind you of? A chieftain, maybe? Minotauro, maybe? Yeah, you're not penning this anywhere. If it's like this and you can't see this, yeah, even Jaegers are gonna struggle. Honestly, like, look, Jaegers are gonna have to like here. It's very good, but obviously it's not always going to be hull down. So lower plate is very weak. So you've got a max 190 mil lower plate. So you're gonna be punched through, and you're gonna punch through it quite easily. It's kind of got this like little mid bar, so as you see, it's kind of lower plate, upper lower plate. It's pretty flat, but if you're not above it, so if you're above it and you're firing down on, so it's 250. If you're kind of below it, it's 240. So it's okay. It will occasionally pull off the odd ricochet. This kind of upper bar here, 260. Same again. It's not the thickest, but if you're firing gold, you are just going to punch through it. But if you're not, you are going to definitely probably struggle to pen it here. Can it side scrape? Yes, it can side scrape. Yeah, it has this kind of whole kind of little flat plate here, but it doesn't really even become that weak when it side scrapes. Like, we're side scraping here, it's 260. So it is gonna bounce. It's gonna be a little bit like an IS4-ish. Like probably a worse IS4 when it side scrapes, because it does have this kind of flat area here, which is going to be punched through, especially with gold. It does also have an overmatchable engine deck, so it can overmatch itself in its engine deck. So if you're playing anything with, 560 alpha gun, you could definitely overmatch this thing's engine deck, and it is going to have a little bar here. So if I do it onto the visual, you'll see it has like this kind of little bar here, like the KPZ, for example. So you can definitely pen that. So if this thing's side scraping and you're playing a tier 8, for example, you're probably not going to have enough pen to punch through this reliably. You can aim for this little bar here, or if you've got a decently alpha-sized gun, you can overmatch its engine deck. So, this thing is looking pretty beefy in terms of its cooldown potential. As a cupola, but as we saw, when it's using its full degrees of gun depression, yeah, you're not seeing the cupola. Well, I mean, actually, sorry, I lie. It has 2 cupolas. But they're only really visible when you're on the flat, because the one which is the big one is at the back. So once again, let's just drop it into the gun depression. There you go. We're using 7 degrees of gun depression. You can see basically a pixel. Basically a pixel. That is it. You do have in this the gun is separate, if that makes sense. So the gun kind of rises outside of the tank. So as you see here, as we raise it up and down, the gun basically seems to rise outside of the tank, which basically makes it so good for gun depression, because you're not having to, move the back of your turret up. It's just good. So, if you do catch it in a flat kind of position like this is going to be overmatchable. So this is like 80 mil a pen, so that's going to be a weak point. It does have the cupola at the back, but once again, if it's moving and it's on a ridgeline, you're really not going to be hitting it. So, stats-wise and armor-wise, this tank's looking pretty strong. And a little bit of an insight for you, we have a guy in a gifted who's called Deji. He managed to, and he's on the super test program, he managed to do 4K in this tank. Firing AP, for example, and restrictions on the type of equipment he can use, and the kind of if he can use food and stuff. He did 4K in this tank. Yeah, it's looking quite good. So, is this tank going to be worth it? I know that's the question you were all going to be asking. Are you going to want to dump 1 million free XP into this? 700 and whatever of your blueprints, gold, bonds, credits? Yes. Actually, if you are a whale and you have 1 million free XP because you don't spend it on anything else, or you have hundreds of thousands of gold, you've got millions and millions of credits, you've got loads and loads of blueprints. Is this tank going to be worth picking up? Yes. I don't think we're going to have a better assembly shop. It is definitely, in my opinion, probably the best assembly shop we've had so far. I think it's probably worth picking up. If you have the ability to pick this tank up, I seriously would. It is looking like it's going to be pretty formidable. Yes, it has its weak points, but that just purely for that hold down potential, it is going to be a really good pickup if you can. So, my opinion, yeah, pick it up. Am I going to be picking it up? No, I don't have enough credits. I'm poor. I have like 10k gold, no free XP. But if you do have the ability to pick this up, I seriously would consider doing so, because I really do think it is going to be pretty competitive. In terms of competitive use, in terms of onslaught, 7v7, all that kind of stuff, it won't be able to use it in onslaught because it's a reward tank. But in terms of 7v7 for the upcoming maneuvers campaign, in terms of advances, do I think this is going to have a use? I actually kind of do. I think it's going to be pretty useful because it's Russian. So it has, it has the armor. Hold down potential wise, it's pretty good. It has DPM. It kind of might become the new chieftain. Do I think it's going to be as good as the chieftain used to be? No. But I think it's probably going to become the closest thing we're going to have to the old chieftain. So, pretty meta, I'd say. But if you did enjoy this quick video, I've tried to get it out for you as quick as you can so you can all make your decisions today. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We're going for 1,000 subs by June. Why not? And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye.